Hello, my name is Carla. I am Skeletor and welcome to my video. So for this piece, I've gone with quite a simple concept and it's quite nice because it sort of marks the end of autumn. Well, at least for those of us living in the northern hemisphere. And subconsciously, I've managed to wrap sort of a big autumn element, which is the pumpkins, together with seemingly a Christmas tree, which was not my intention from the beginning. But as you'll see further on in this piece, I do expand on that concept. So I started on the initial sketch for this quite a while ago, and my original intention was to create it digitally in my normal way of line art, flat colouring, and then very basic like cartoon shading. But I thought that because it's quite simple, it might be good to try out the no line art style, which I've never tried before. And I see loads of other artists create magical pieces of art without line art, and it just looks so good. It looks really clean, smooth. I just really admire it. So naturally, I want to create art like that too. I definitely think this is much less of a learning curve than trying something like painting for the first time. But obviously, this is the first time I've done it, so I definitely think there's room for improvement. And then I suppose from this sort of art style, I'd probably like to delve into digital painting, which again I've never tried before. There's just something about it that terrifies me. The fact that you see other people doing all the colouring, everything on one layer, whereas me, if you actually look through this video, I have, even though don't even have line art, I've got 50 million different layers. I just don't have that much faith in myself. I mean, even in this piece, which I've drastically reduced the amount of layers, because instead I've used the selection tool to create like different shades to show shadows and that sort of thing. When I've got further into it, I've noticed little mistakes that I can't really change. I can't correct them because I've already sort of merged layers down. It's just too late. But I suppose it's the same with real painting. If you make a mistake, you have to go over and redo it. So I suppose digital painting is just like that. And once you get into it, it'll be less scary, I guess. So I definitely felt as I was doing it, and even now, I'm really proud of how the pumpkins turned out. I just think I did a really good job of rendering them. I do think I have an issue with highlights and shadows in that I don't go light or dark enough. And you'll see by the end of this piece, that just rings true everywhere. But I just think the overall look of the pumpkins just looks really nice. The pumpkins are definitely one of my favourite parts of this piece to do and to look at now that it's finished. I think because I went in blind, kind of, that I really need to sort of look into different techniques to make the most of this art style. Because you'll notice as we get further into the video, I start using different techniques, which I'm not sure they merge together quite well. I think the overall finished piece looks good, but I think I could have done it better if I stuck to the same technique for everything. So for most of the piece, I've been going in with flat colour and then using the selection tool to create highlights and shadows to render the different parts. And I used the Procreate noise brush, which is in the touch up section. And I really enjoy using noise type brushes anyway to create like a gradient shadow. I just think it looks quite atmospheric, and that's a technique I picked up from plastic.pen over on Instagram. So when it came to the grass, which should be coming up shortly, I didn't know how to tackle it. I didn't know how to get the right texture to make it look like grass. So I made the executive decision to use one of Procreate's grass brushes, which I think looks perfect for grass, but compared to the rest of the piece, it looks a little bit too detailed. Again, overall, by the end of it, I think it looks good, but I think it might have looked better if I hadn't gone down that route. I think maybe if I'd done the same as the tree and physically drawn out the little blades of grass so they were more chunkier, and then created depth with darker, behind, etc. Maybe that would have looked better. But I wasn't really in the mood for trying anything out after that point. So after that, I thought the wall needed something more, but I didn't really know how to go about that either, since the wall itself is flat. So I added in a texture overlay, which was basically like a painted wall. So it gave it that sort of gravelly look on the surface. So I changed that layer to multiply across all the different wall layers. And I do prefer that to the grass, but again, I don't think it fits the overall art style. But as with everything else, it takes time and practice, and the more I try this art style, the better I'll get, and the better techniques that I'll pick up and adapt to what I like best. I did think that doing art this way would be quicker and easier than the traditional line art, flat colours, etc., but I think it probably took me longer. I don't know if that's because it was new to me or just because that's the nature of this art style, but I suppose I'll get quicker with time. I was just quite naive about it. I think one of my favourite parts, other than the pumpkins, was rendering the gold parts. So as for the door knocker, and coming up is the light fixture in the porch, I really loved doing the gold. I think they turned out really good, but they're probably the smallest parts of the entire piece, so I don't even think anyone would notice. I think for the next time I try this art style, I might focus on some sort of close-up, and then little details like that won't get lost. Creating this piece of art has definitely got me into the Christmas mood. It might have started out an autumn piece, but it definitely felt more Christmassy towards the end. And I absolutely love Christmas. I just really love feeling Christmassy. So as you'll see, I decided to put quite a lot of lights in it, and as the video goes on there'll be more and more, and I really like the look of it towards the end. I think it looks really magical. But even though I've done a lot of lights, it's definitely lacking highlights and shadows. I know the colouring overall sort of teases towards highlights and shadows, but there's no real lighting, and I think that's my biggest downfall of this piece overall. I don't think it takes away from the piece, but I think creating strong shadows from all these lights might have given it more depth, but it was just too much to tackle. I can't worry about how the shadows are going to look and how to do them, as well as figuring out all the other little bits. I think for this kind of art style and digital painting as well, I think that is something I really need to focus on, my lighting and shadows skills. Because in my normal art style, it's easy to get away with because I stick to cartoon style shading. I don't have to worry too much, whereas for this sort of thing, it does matter. And obviously, I want to improve my art skills. I guess it's just learning the basics and strengthening those skills to carry them over into whatever project I want to follow through with. But then again, I also think you can make something look good and real even without those fundamentals. A bit like a piece of literature that completely goes against the rules of writing. But as they say, you need to know the rules to break them, and I think I need to focus on that. So this is the final result. Even though I think there's quite a lot of areas that I could have improved, I really enjoyed making it. So Jasper's back. He is completely fast asleep, so no words of wisdom from him. But anyway, I just want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Ta-ra!